This story is titled, "She Pretended I Didn't Exist at Her Boss's Party." So I left without a word. You ever find yourself in a room full of people, music playing low, laughter bubbling all around, and wonder if you accidentally walked into someone else's life? That was me, Thursday night, 9:14 p.m., standing in the far corner of the rooftop at the Galloway Hotel. I only remember the time because I checked my watch for the sixth time and realized I hadn't said a word to my wife in almost an hour. Her name's Selene Prescott. Nothing flashy about it, but somehow, when she said it, it sounded like something that came with a price tag. She wasn't always like this. She used to be thoughtful, not shy, just the kind of quiet that made you feel like she was actually listening. That was before Marlon and Blake, before the new job, before the late night started and the unfamiliar perfumes started showing up with her. The invite came last minute. That morning, over burnt toast, she said, "I think you should come tonight. My team's throwing a mixer for Mr. Blake. It's kind of a big deal." Mr. Blake, the new co-owner, the one she once said looked like some indie film actor she wouldn't shut up about. I told her sure, I'd be there. Because what husband doesn't show up when his wife says it's important? I wore the wrong thing. Khakis, loafers, a button-down shirt that made me look like I was trying too hard, like I was somebody's accountant uncle. Everyone else there? They looked curated. That effortless, put-together kind of wealthy that you can't fake. Meanwhile, I was sweating through my shirt like it was sophomore year picture day. She introduced me to a few people, but it all blurred together. "This is Rory," she said, smiling. "Not my husband, Rory. Just Rory." One guy nodded without even glancing at me. Another asked what I did, and the second I said data audits, he turned and started chatting up some woman in sequence. That was my whole welcome party. Then Selene disappeared. No goodbye. No, back in a sec. Just wandered off across the rooftop toward a velvet booth where Blake was sitting. I watched her lean in, hand resting lightly on his shoulder. She whispered something. He laughed. She stayed. I stood there, drink in hand, not touched, jaw tight. Wasn't angry. Not yet. Mostly, I just felt like a fool. Like someone who'd shown up to a play after the curtain had already dropped. A woman passed by and muttered, "I thought he came alone." She didn't mean for me to hear it. But I did. I left. Didn't make a scene. Didn't leave a note. Just slipped out the same door I came in, past the doorman who gave me that look, like he already knew. 10 minutes later, just as I pulled out of the parking garage, her name popped up on my phone. Text message. One line, "Come back. Please." She'd ignored me all night. Acted like I didn't exist. But now, suddenly I mattered? I stared at the message, engine still running, stuck in park. And I don't really know why, but I didn't answer. Not right away. I didn't turn around either. Not that night. It looked like something she'd picked up from a boutique, probably while holding Blake's hand, laughing over some inside joke, sipping expensive cocktails with an ocean view behind them. I took the box in my hands, nodded once, and set it on the counter. I didn't say thank you. Didn't look her in the eye. And for the first time in a long while, I think she noticed something wasn't quite right. I wasn't being cold. I wasn't sulking or throwing shade. I was being precise. Controlled. Surgical, even. She asked if I wanted to grab dinner. I told her I had work to finish. She followed up, asked if I was okay. I said I was just tired. She didn't push. And that silence told me everything. She had something to hide. And she was terrified I might already know. What she didn't know was that while she was gone, I hadn't just been sitting around. I'd been connecting dots, tugging on threads, following that quiet hum in the back of my mind. I remembered what Elias had said about leverage. That word wouldn't leave me alone. Blake wasn't just having an affair with my wife, he was setting her up for something bigger. They weren't acting reckless. They were playing a long game. The lies weren't careless. They were rehearsed. I logged into the cloud storage account we used for shared files, receipts, tax documents, travel stuff. Selene must have forgotten I still had access. Or maybe she just assumed I wouldn't bother checking. But hidden inside a folder labeled Work Docs, I found a scan lease agreement. Luxury apartment. Her name on it. Not far from where Blake lived. Signed 2 weeks ago. Move-in scheduled for next month. Rent. $1,800 a month. She never said a word about moving. Not a hint. She wasn't just planning to leave me, she was already setting up her new life. I felt like I'd just taken a sledgehammer to the chest. But it didn't stop there. I dug deeper, found a string of emails between her and a property manager. She used her personal Gmail. One message in particular stood out. She asked about adding a second occupant after the first month. She didn't say his name. She didn't have to. He was already listed as the emergency contact. Phone number, office email. His initials right there on the final page of the application. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't some hotel tryst she regretted. This was a new life. With him. Without me. I sat there, staring at the screen, and it felt like all my ribs had turned to glass. Like everything inside me shattered at once. But still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because something told me this went deeper than just betrayal. There was another layer underneath all of this. Something darker. I needed to understand why. Why now? Why this way? What made her decide to end a marriage so quietly and so completely? That night, I called Elias. He picked up on the second ring. I think they're planning something, I said. He paused for a moment, then said, "You're not wrong. You said something before about leverage. What does that really mean?" He sighed. "I wasn't planning on getting this far in, but you're in it now, so I'll tell you. Blake doesn't just sleep with women, Rory. He uses them. He grooms them, gives them promotions, titles, makes them feel like they're climbing the ladder, until they're too deep to climb out. And Selene," he added, "she's moved up twice in 6 months, right? No degree, no background in corporate strategy, but suddenly she's in press briefings and internal reports." I felt my whole body go cold. "Yeah," I said quietly. "That's exactly what happened. It's not because she's brilliant," he said, blunt as a hammer. "It's because she's obedient." I flinched. I hated that word. I hated him for saying it. But the worst part? Somewhere deep down, I already knew he was right. She hadn't just fallen into this. She bought into it. Signed the dotted line with both eyes wide open. And then Elias dropped one more line I'll never forget. "Did she tell you she's pregnant?" I froze. "What?" "I overheard Blake at the hotel bar. He was drunk, talking too loud. Said something about dealing with a situation before it got complicated. Didn't catch the whole thing, but it wasn't business talk." I stood there, lightheaded, barely breathing. Because about 3 weeks earlier, Selene had mentioned, offhand, that she'd missed her period. Said it was probably just stress, hormones, travel. Said she'd take a test in a few days if it didn't show up. I hadn't thought much of it then. Now I couldn't stop thinking about it. And right there, in my own kitchen, I realized I wasn't just watching my marriage fall apart. I was staring down the possibility that the child she was carrying might not be mine. I didn't cry, didn't yell, didn't throw anything. I just turned off the light, sat down in the dark, and stared at nothing. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preparing for an ending, one she would never see coming. And it wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be exact. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in our bed, her side empty, watching the ceiling fan spin like it had the answers I was too scared to say out loud. If she really was pregnant. If what Elias told me was true. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. By morning, she was acting different, affectionate, cheerful, made breakfast, brewed coffee, offered to drive me to work, something she hadn't done in years. I told her no thanks, then watched her carefully. She moved lightly, like she'd already won. Like everything had gone her way, and now she just had to play her part a little longer. She kissed me on the cheek, smiled, and walked out the door with a bounce in her step. The moment she left, I opened her laptop again. I wasn't looking for more proof. I already had enough to level everything. But one thing kept nagging at me. Why was she still here? She had Blake. She had an apartment. She had plans. So why keep pretending? That's when I found a folder, pending contracts, buried inside one called Personal Docs. Inside were signed PDFs from Blake's firm. One document stood out, dated 2 months ago. It included a clause about a post-divorce executive transition bonus. And there, right in the list of terms, Rory Prescott, spousal coverage buyout. My name. On paper, I wasn't just her husband anymore. I was a liability they were planning to cash out. It all made sense now. She wasn't leaving yet because she had to hit certain marks, timing, publicity, legal shielding. She was playing the long game, and she thought I was too distracted or too trusting to see it. What she didn't realize was that I'd already turned the tables, while she was planning an exit. I was tracking her every move. I'd installed a silent app on her iPad, one she rarely used, but that synced with her phone. GPS history, notifications, even call logs. No content. But timestamps and patterns? They told me plenty. And then 2 nights later, she made a mistake. She said she was going to visit her cousin Marcy in Buckhead. I smiled, nodded, said, have fun. But I knew. I already knew. It took less than 20 minutes for her GPS to ping from a parking garage downtown. Same street as Blake's satellite office. Then she moved again into the tower. Up 12 floors. Down again. Then over to the Ritz-Carlton across the street. Suite 2410. She stayed there for more than 4 hours. When she got home later that night, I didn't say a word. But I took note of everything. Logged the timestamps. Matched her movement with her calendar. And that's when something caught my eye. The morning before all that, she had a doctor's appointment. OBGYN. She didn't mention it. Just said she had a couple errands to run after work. That evening, I watched her from the hallway as she sat at her laptop. Her back was stiff, her shoulders squared. She typed fast, too fast. Paused. Clicked something. Stopped again. Then shut the screen and got up for a shower. When the water started running, I flipped the laptop back open. There it was. A message draft. Addressed to Blake. Subject line read, confirmed. No body text. Nothing else. Just that word. She hadn't sent it yet. She was waiting. And that one word hit me like a freight train in a tunnel. Confirmed. She was pregnant. And neither of us had been told. I leaned back in the chair, hands limp, brain frozen. I didn't feel rage. Not even heartbreak. What I felt was something colder. Clarity. Like watching the last scene of a play and finally understanding the entire script had been fake from the start. She wasn't lost. She wasn't confused. She was deliberate. Every step planned. I could see it all coming, the announcement. Then the split. Then the version of the story she'd spin for everyone else. A shiny narrative full of buzzwords like growth and fresh starts and mutual respect. She'd make herself the star, the woman who found herself. And I'd be cast as the forgettable background character. The quiet husband who didn't fight hard enough. But not this time. I was done letting her write the story. So I started telling my own. First stop? A lawyer. Not just any attorney, I hired a divorce crisis team. The kind that works behind the scenes when reputations and legacies are at stake. I handed them everything. The lease. The hidden contracts. The email draft. The GPS data. Even the folder name confirmed. They didn't flinch. They'd seen worse. But what really got their attention was one name. Elias. The guy with the video. The man on the rooftop. Turns out, he had more footage. More pieces. The legal team asked if I could get him talking. I told them I could. Because by now, I wasn't trying to fix a marriage. I was protecting my future. And Selene was about to learn what it feels like when the man she thought was an afterthought turns out to be the one writing the ending. It all happened over dinner. Nothing fancy. No dramatic build-up. Just two people sitting at opposite ends of a kitchen table, pretending they weren't enemies. She'd made pasta. Her comfort dish. She always made it when something was weighing on her. Should have been the clue. But I played dumb. Cut my food slow. Drank water. Waited. She didn't get to the point right away. Circled around it like a hawk stalling before the dive. Small talk. Light chuckles. Questions about my day. But I didn't help her out. Didn't bail her out with conversation. I let the silence grow thick. Let her squirm inside it. Finally, she broke. There's something I've been meaning to tell you, she said. I didn't flinch. Go ahead. She looked down, twisting her fork like a kid trying to stall bedtime. I found out something recently, she said. I didn't know how to bring it up, but I can't keep it from you anymore. I didn't respond. Didn't nod. Didn't blink. She was already coming apart. I'm pregnant. Her voice cracked on the second word. Not from sadness, from effort. She wanted it to sound tender. Vulnerable. But I saw it for what it was, a live grenade she'd been hiding under the table. I took a slow breath. I know. She went still. And in that silence, I saw it, not confusion. Calculation. She was scanning. Adjusting. Trying to figure out how much I actually knew. What do you mean? You know, she asked. I saw the email draft, I said. The one you titled Confirmed. She didn't respond. Didn't deny it. Didn't ask how I'd seen it. She didn't need to. So I asked the question. Is it his? Her lips parted. Like she wanted to lie. But then she shook her head. I don't know. A whisper. Honest. But still brutal. I leaned back in my chair, letting her words hang heavy in the air. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't even look angry. Just stared at her like someone who'd heard enough. But she kept going. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she said. It wasn't even serious at first. I felt so invisible, Rory. You work. You read. You disappear. That was her truth. Her version of the story. Not that she cheated. Not that she lied. But that I didn't chase her. That I trusted her when she wanted to be doubted. That I didn't hold her tight when she was the one pulling away. Blake saw me, she said. He made me feel like I was more than just your wife. I didn't mean to fall for him. But you planned the apartment, I said. And the exit. She didn't deny it. Do you love him? I asked. She hesitated. Then nodded. That should have broken me. It didn't. Because right then, something inside me locked into place. Not pain. Not rage. Just peace. The kind that only comes when the truth is finally louder than the lies. I want a divorce, I said, steady as a stone. She didn't argue. Didn't cry. Just blinked, slowly. I figured, she whispered. I won't fight you. But I won't protect you either, I added. She frowned. What does that mean? It means whatever comes next, press, fallout, contracts, that's on you. I've already hired a legal team. One that specializes in messy, high-stakes splits. She looked stunned. I didn't think you'd. I already did. For the first time all night, I saw it, fear. Real, honest fear. I'm not here to ruin you, Selene, I said, rising. I'm just done letting you write the story. She backed up a step. Like the air in the room had changed. Like the ground beneath her wasn't hers anymore. Because it wasn't. That night, she didn't sleep in our bed. Didn't say another word. Just stepped into the guest room and closed the door. Not slammed. Just closed. Like someone marking the end of a chapter. What she didn't know was that by morning, I would do the one thing she never expected. I was going to tell the truth. Not for revenge, but for peace.